Hey guys, Jay here at the Legion of Two, and in this wee quick one, I just wanted to have a chat about the upcoming 40k World Eaters. Now, looking at them, they do look quite nice, and they're getting some interesting new units, these 8-scarred guys and these jackals. But I personally think that they've just missed a few things, and I'm not entirely sure why. So, while I understand that obviously, the difference between the narrative of Heresy and the narrative of 40k is 10,000 years. The leaked look at the rules we got a couple of weeks ago, they just seemed very lacking. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think people were expecting to have a little bit more in their World Eaters than what we're getting. If we take the example of the Death Guard, for example, they got brand new Plague Marines, they got 2 different kinds of Terminators, they got several elite choices, they got an Apothecary, a guy with like some sort of fucking spear, they got a guy who has a giant bell, they've got quite a few wee units. And then they got a couple of sort of mid-level vehicles, the thing with the treads and the little artillery piece. I don't really know their names off the top of my head. I'm not a big Death Guard fan. But you would think to yourself, right, well, if they're getting that, and then you sort of correlate that between the Thousand Sons. Thousand Sons got Scarab Occult Terminators, they got their generic Thousand Sun guys, they got the Zangors, which you can use in AOS, and they got a couple of Sorcerers in a pack. So you would think to yourself, the World Eaters are actually going to get the same. When you look at the leaked rules we got, they seem to be lacking in quite a few things. Yes, we are getting the generic Khorne Berserkers. Yes, we're getting the Jackals, which are basically cultists, and we're getting these 8-scarred, which are like guys who have 8 demons in them and they fight for supremacy, and all that's kind of nice and stuff. But there is a distinct lack of the Heresy era units, with no real explanation as to why they're not there. Yes, I understand it has been 10,000 years and a lot of these characters can die in the intervening time, but given the use of the Berserker Surgeons that still exist, you would think they would make more of these units. So, just off the top of my head, they're lacking the Devourers, they're lacking the Rampagers, and they're lacking the Red Butchers. Now, you could make the argument that the Rampagers essentially became Khorne Berserkers, but everybody in the World Eaters really became Khorne Berserkers in some way, shape, or form. So, you would think that the Rampagers would be the sort of next level, a cut above the normal psycho that the World Eaters would have. And the Red Butchers obviously are some sort of crazy conglomeration of someone who's too much of a head case. They've put him in a suit of Terminator armor. But they're World Eaters. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, yes, they are head cases. You put them in Terminator armor. They're still Terminators in 40k. Why don't we have stats for the Red Butchers or the Devourers? The Devourers to me are quite an interesting concept because they're the disgruntled, discarded bodyguard for an insane creature who doesn't need a bodyguard or believed he didn't. And if you've read Echoes of Damnation, you damn well know he really could have used that bodyguard. May not have saved him, but it might have helped. And even if we don't get the Devourers or we don't get the Red Butchers or the Rampagers, I honestly did expect to get a Berserker Surgeon. They're a key part of how they made the Butcher's Nails and turned the World Eaters into the Khorne Berserkers. Given the narrative that is created about how Galen Surlak found the technology and then created the Butcher's Nails that was implanted, you would think that they would be quite a key part of the World Eaters army, and in the sense of 40k, you'd probably class them as sort of something like the Plague Surgeon from the Death Guard, where he's a mid-level elite choice, give him a lot of attacks, but primarily he's a buff character who could run with the World Eaters and assist them in doing some serious damage, but he's not really much of a pushover himself. But we don't seem to have that. Now, I'm hoping that what I'm saying right now is just a load of it, and when we get the real book, the leak was just somebody with a wee bit of Photoshop and just made all this up. But I personally believe that what we've seen is going to be genuine, and the World Eaters just seem to lack everything. Now maybe they'll get a second release, but why would you do a second release without having the stats in the book? Are they going to become another interpretation of the Ideneth Deepkin, where they've had 3 books in less than 2 years and they just constantly get units? Now that's great that you're getting units, But that's going to piss a lot of people off because they have to buy army book after army book after army book. And most people don't really want to do that. It's bad enough that sometimes we have rules in a supplement book, or you've got the Arcs of Omen or the Psychic Awakening or whatever the hell you have, and you've got a half a dozen books that you need to keep for certain little buffs or stratagem cards and things like that, instead of just combining it all into one thing, and that's what you need. But honestly, let me know your thoughts in the comments or drop me a wee message. What do you think? Are you looking forward to seeing what the world leaders have? Are you annoyed that they're missing out some of the units? Or in your mind, can you justify it as, yeah, it's been 10,000 years and they're all dead, and we'll see where it goes from here? Or are you just happy that after seriously a long amount of time? As I say, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as usual, like, subscribe, and do all that usual stuff. Thanks now. Bye-bye.